HR, you've got a lot of things on your plate, so you are no stranger to the struggle of juggling multiple priorities. But today's video is all about helping you to do all those things and achieve more goals without the burnout. Hey, it's Brittany, CEO and founder of Talent Teams Consulting, and I am back with today's video. So today we're talking about ways to be more productive, ways to not only set our goals, but to set ways to achieve those goals. And if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and tune in for more videos just like this. I help HR professionals to go from being in a chaotic environment to an environment where you have more control. And I believe that's really the key to your future career success. It's worked for me, and I'm confident it will work for you as well. I'm inspired by this season that I'm in right now because our kids are now in a summer break. And while we don't get summer breaks as adults, or at least I don't in my day job, I don't get a summer break. But typically this season of the year feels really familiar to me because I know when I was in HR department of one before, everyone would be on vacation mode. So the office would get really, really quiet. People would be vacationing and cruising and all these things. But when I worked alone, I really didn't have that luxury because no one could back me up. Payroll still had to run. I still had to be in the office to do a lot of things. And so for me, even though I'm no longer in HR department of one today, I was able to grow my career and now lead additional departments. I still see this season of the year as one where it's time to get back on track. The beginning of the year, you're focusing on setting goals for the year. Middle of the year, now that we're in the summer months, it's all about making sure you stay on track, reset, refocus. If you're an HR department of one professional right now, I encourage you and I challenge you. If we're not already connected, if you're not getting my emails, click the link down below to get connected and tuned in. We are on a 30-day sprint, a summer sprint, to make sure we are getting organized for the month, organized for the rest of the year. So make sure you tune into that. I will never forget how it felt about a year into my HR department of one journey, and I felt like I was drowning. I was missing so many deadlines. I was missing deadlines that I knew about, deadlines that I set for myself, but I was also missing deadlines that I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that existed. How can you miss something that you don't even know exists? It can happen. But then also I just felt like I was in this constant motion, constantly doing things, working, and I felt like I was staying still. So when these things happen, when you get burnt out, when you have these moments where you feel like you're just out of control, these are the moments where anxiety and stress can creep in. So use this video as a resource to make sure you are keeping your things in check. This video is going to be full of tips and techniques to make sure you're not only setting goals for yourself, make sure they're achievable and they're more manageable for you in the process. First things first, you want to be able to identify your most important tasks. So at the beginning of every day, at a minimum, at the beginning of every week, you should have a list of things to do. And so that list might have 5 things on it, 10 things on it, 20 things on it. But everything is not a priority right now. So you got to make sure that you're not just going your list and doing it in chronological order. You really have to prioritize based on what's most important at that time. And we'll talk about that in a few moments. But again, when you're looking at your list of things to do, a lot of times you get overwhelmed because you're like, gosh, I'll never get this done. Or you know those feelings where you walk into the office, you have a plan of what you want to do, but then you leave and nothing on that list got done. That's how it is in HR sometimes. Most times we get interrupted with things because, again, we're dealing with people and people will always people. So we have to make sure that we have our own systems, our own tools, our own plans to make sure we always can get back on track when those interruptions come. When you're talking about prioritizing based on things that are important, we're going to talk about a way to do those things in a few minutes. But one of the things I really want you to stress is make sure that when you're thinking about things that are important, remember there's a difference between things that are important to you to do and things that are important to someone else. So remember, someone else having a big issue or someone else forgetting their own deadline, and then all of a sudden you get looped in. That doesn't always mean it has to be a priority for you. Remember, we teach people how to treat us. So once we have our plans set, once we have our goals set, once we know what's priority for us, when we have those moments where someone is interrupting us with their own crisis that they're now pulling us in to help them solve, and we know where we're coming from, we can tell them like, listen, I'm working on this, I'm right in the middle of it, but give me X amount of time and I can get back to you. Never let someone else's crisis become your problem. You got your list of all the things you know must get done, maybe all the things that must get done for that week. So how do you prioritize them based on what needs to get done first? What I would suggest you use the Eisenhower matrix. So it's 4 quadrants and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, where you have things that are scaled based on whether they're urgent or whether they're important. So again, and one of the quadrants might be both urgent and important. Those are things you need to get done immediately. It's a time sensitive thing and you got to get it done now. So go ahead and get those things done now. But what about something that's urgent but not important? Well, if it's urgent but not important, maybe that means it's not important to you. Maybe that's something you can delegate. Maybe that's something you can get someone else to do for you. Then you have things that are not urgent, but they're important. Okay, so it's an important thing to do, but it's not time sensitive. Okay, we can schedule those things out. We can make time for those things. So again, you don't have to do it today if you have until next week to get it done. Then you have things that are not urgent and they're also not important. For those things, get those things off your list altogether. Sometimes our lists get clogged down with so many things because they might be nice to do's, but we don't have to do everything on our list. Remember, using the Eisenhower matrix, gauging things based on whether they're urgent and or important is going to help you so much, but it takes time and it takes effort and it takes intentionality to make these things happen. These type of things aren't going to happen overnight. These type of things aren't going to happen just one and done type of things. You've got to make space in your calendar to do these things. You've got in your list, you know where things fall in your quadrants. So what's next? I would suggest you break your things down. So you might have a really big thing that's both urgent and important, but how can you get that done? Maybe that's the thing you can't get done all in one day. Break it down into more manageable steps. Think about ways you can break things down for yourself. And I like to always think about this. Before we can lead other people, we've got to first be able to lead ourselves. So use this as an exercise. You don't realize it, but you're training yourself in the process. If you can take a big, complex task and break it down for yourself and give yourself actionable steps to make those things happen, that's the same thing you'll need to do when you start to lead somebody else. So remember, when you're in this space of being an HR department of one, that's not going to be the season of your career for the entire duration of your career. You're always planting seeds. You're always laying the foundation. You're always setting the stage for future success. And that goes back to being intentional. Like I keep saying, you've got to have a plan to do things both with purpose and on purpose. Breaking things down into smaller steps not only makes it easier to achieve those things, but it also helps you to limit overwhelmed. When you have things that are smaller, it's easier to attain, it's easier to accomplish, it's easier to just conceptualize the fact that you've got to get it done. It also helps you to mitigate burnout. Burnout exists when you have all these things to do and the walls just start feeling like they're closing in on you. But if you're working in small, bite-sized action steps, is going to help you to mitigate that stress. As you're working, as you're making your list, as you're putting them in your quadrants, as you're breaking it down into smaller steps, one important thing to do also is to make sure you are holding yourself accountable. You're setting your own plan. Remember, in one of the quadrants from the Eisenhower matrix, I said if it's not urgent but it's important, you want to schedule it. So scheduling things is part of your plan, but you also want to plan out different things such as making space to do these type of activities where you're putting things into your quadrants, where you're writing down your list. You really want to make sure you're holding yourself accountable. It goes back to leading yourself first. So when you're working in HR, when you're working by yourself in HR, you've got to be your own assistant. You've got to be your own supervisor sometimes. You've got to be your own resource. So create these tools and systems around your work. It's going to help you to be more productive and more fruitful as well. As you're setting your deadlines and you're putting plans around the work that you're doing, make sure you're also scheduling time to reassess what you're doing, whether that's daily, whether that's weekly, at a minimum monthly. But make sure you're reviewing the things that you're doing. How are things going? What's working for you? What's not working for you? You don't want to ever get set into a place where you are working, and then you get 7 months down the line and realize that the work you were doing was ineffective. You want to continuously review how you're doing, review your systems, review your processes to get incrementally better over time. As you're making your plans and you're setting your goals and you're making plans to achieve those goals, sometimes you got to admit that you're too close to it to really see the writing on the wall or to really see the actual problems at hand. Having a plan as an HR professional is non-negotiable. And when you're leading an HR department, especially when you're doing it on your own, if you're not working from a plan, you're already 3 steps behind. So if you need a plan to keep you on track, I highly recommend my Thriving in HR Planner. It's a 170-page planner, including tutorials throughout. It's going to help you to get more on track. It's going to help you to not only plan for your year, but plan for your months and also plan for your weeks as well. And there's also the things we talked about today where we're talking about reflecting over your progress, making plans for your space, making plans for the work that you're doing is all included in this planner. And so if you've got any questions about it, if you want to reach out to me, book a quick 15-minute call, we can discuss it. If you're also interested in higher coaching and mentoring, reach out to me. I would love to serve you in that way. I hope you're leaving this video inspired to do things not only on purpose, but with purpose. I'll talk to you in the very next video. Bye.